Life took an unexpected turn recently, shaking the very foundation I believed was solid. We all know how unpredictable life can be, throwing curveballs just when you think you've got it all figured out. This is my story, a tale of a seemingly blissful marriage of 12 years that got flipped on its head. My wife and I were the picture-perfect couple, the kind that turned heads when entering the room. We were in love, two halves of a complete entity, sharing not just our meals, but every single secret. Or so I thought. Last week, my world was shattered when my buddy Mike, a stand-up guy, called me out of the blue. Mike had always been loyal, and if he felt the need to talk, it was worth listening. He warned me to watch my back, mentioning an undercurrent at the gym involving my wife and a guy named Rick, known for being a player. Initially, I laughed it off. There was no way Claire could be involved in something like that. We were a team. Or so I thought. But then Mike spoke of their peculiar interactions on Thursdays. Due to my job, I had to work late on Thursdays, a sacrifice for our comfortable life. Claire would hit the gym alone during that time, a fact that Rick seemed to be well aware of. Driven by a sense of dread, I did something I had never done before. I went through Claire's phone. Buried in an obscure messaging app, I found a message thread that sent alarm bells ringing in my head. The messages outlined plans for a rendezvous the upcoming Thursday, a secret meeting at a hotel just a few blocks away. Rick would get there first, and Claire would arrive 20 minutes later. Reading through those messages felt like a punch to the gut. It was like I was reading the script of some cheap melodrama. Except this was my life. The pit of my stomach churned with anger, betrayal, and heartache. Yet despite the raging storm within me, an odd sense of calm and chilling determination settled around me like an icy shroud. I'm not one to sit back and play the victim. I'm a man of action, stoic some might say, but I also believe in settling scores. As I sit here typing this out, the room is dark around me. It's late, and Claire is asleep in our bed, oblivious to the storm that's about to hit her. On the table beside me is her phone, the damning evidence shining brightly in the dark. I will not let this pass. I refuse to sit idly by while my marriage is torn asunder. I'm determined to expose this twisted game for what it is. How I'll do it, I'm not entirely sure yet, but what I do know is that I won't allow myself to be made a fool. It's a war of sorts, a battle of wits, and I plan to strike where it hurts most. My vengeance will be cold, calculated, and absolutely just. Don't mistake my resolve for cruelty. It's the product of deep-seated betrayal and a sense of injustice. This may be my darkest hour, but it's also my time to rise, to reclaim my dignity and self-respect. I will ensure that the game being played ends with my victory. The stage is set, the dice are loaded, and my wife will learn that this Thursday is a day she'll never forget. Until then, I remain a man wronged, a husband betrayed, but by no means defeated. The evening where I stopped being a spectator in my own life and took charge, as promised, here's how it went down. First, I arranged with a handful of colleagues at work, whom I trust implicitly, to handle my workload, allowing me to leave the office early, a deviation from my usual routine, to meet my unexpected appointment. A clandestine meeting on a Thursday evening that would irrevocably change the dynamics of my marriage, and another man's too. After a bit of discreet investigation, I discovered something shocking. Rick, the interloper in my wedded life, was not as single as he liked to portray. He had a wife as oblivious to her husband's infidelities as I had been. Deceit declared, the chessboard was set, and I was ready to make my move. I dialed a number. A simple action that held profound implications. Rick's wife picked up the phone, her voice filled with unsuspecting cheer. We conversed, but I let the suspense of our discussion linger a while longer. Fast forward to that fateful Thursday night. Thanks to my gym buddy Mike, I knew when Rick left the gym for the rendezvous. My heart pounded like a war drum as I parked my car across the street from the designated hotel, watching and waiting. After about 5 minutes of Rick entering the hotel, another car pulled up. Rick's wife, let's call her Sarah, was here. We parked on the backside, away from prying eyes, sitting in the breakfast area adjacent to the lobby. It was a strange calm before the storm, like the unnerving quietude before a tempest. My mind was filled with 1,000 thoughts, yet I felt an eerie sense of calm. The stakes were high, but so was my resolve. Then Claire walked in. As she passed the breakfast area, I called out, "Hey, hun." The shock on her face was akin to a deer caught in the headlights. Her eyes widened, her lips parted in a silent gasp, and she paled considerably. The shock of seeing me in a place she least expected me was evident. "Come in here and let's talk a minute," I said. She hesitated, then walked in slowly. She looked at Sarah, and then back at me. I could tell for a brief moment she thought that maybe I was also at this hotel with another woman. She almost looked relieved until I said, "I'd like you to meet Sarah, Rick's wife." Her countenance dropped. She started apologizing, saying, "Oh my God, I had no idea," but I cut her off with a gesture of my hand. Sarah just scowled at her. "What room is he in?" My voice cut through the tense air like a knife. Claire's lips quivered, but she remained silent. Sarah, now on the verge of a breakdown, echoed my question, asking which room. I asked again, this time my voice as cold as the Arctic wind. "Claire, I won't ask again." After what felt like an eternity, she muttered, "Room 413. Back home, the confrontation continued. Claire tried to explain, to plead her case, but I wasn't interested in listening. Her actions had spoken louder than any word she could offer. I told her to get prepared to move out, and she reluctantly agreed, the remorse in her eyes doing nothing to soften my resolve. As the week passed, Claire and I coexisted in the same house, living parallel lives. She attempted to seduce me, to rekindle what was lost, but it was too late. She was no longer the woman I loved, she was a stranger, and I never gave her 1 inch of hope that I could ever see her the same way again. I suspect I will be hearing from Sarah soon, and if I do, I'll come back and let you know what transpired on her end. A couple of weeks after the confrontation, I received a call from Sarah. I could hear the anxiety in her voice, mirroring my own feelings from that fateful Thursday evening. She told me about her encounter with Rick at the hotel. When he came down from the room, oblivious and expecting to just walk out the door, he was met with the cold gaze of his wife, sitting in the breakfast area. The moment he saw her, he dropped to his knees, pleading for forgiveness. I could almost picture the scene, similar to my confrontation with him, a mirror image of the fear and remorse in his eyes. Sarah, being the compassionate woman she is, decided to give him a chance. They are now attending marriage counseling in an attempt to salvage what's left of their relationship. I wished her the best, hoping that she finds the peace and happiness she deserves. As for whether they will stay together, only time will tell. Sarah is considering a divorce, but she wants to give herself time to process everything and make the right decision. I respect her for her strength and patience. Dealing with such a traumatic revelation takes a lot of courage and resilience. Turning to Claire, she has moved out, and we communicate strictly through our lawyers. I will not let her transgressions mar my peace anymore. My divorce will be finalized soon, and yes, I will have to pay some alimony, but I view it as the price for peace and my dignity. As for my future, I'm not certain about another marriage. For now, I just want to focus on my work and pursue my passions, some of which were overshadowed during my married life. I will continue going to the gym, attend concerts, and fulfill my dream of traveling to Europe. If there is one thing this entire experience has taught me, it's that life is unpredictable, and we must learn to adapt and find our strength in adversity. I am still standing, and I am grateful for the chance to move on and start anew. Thank you all for your support. Until my next update, take care. Tough guys are usually tough until they meet an actual tough guy. Rick is an idiot, and Claire even more so, for falling for such a spineless twit. Her husband sounds like a guy who has it together pretty well, but you never know what kind of people these really are, unless you know them in real life, I suppose.